Yeah, assalamu alaikum, Brother Majdi.
عليك السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Yeah, so nice to see you and visit with you, mashallah.
May Allah bless you. Thanks for the invitation. You're always humbling us with your modesty and beautiful mind.
Thank you so much. Yeah, appreciate it.
Jazakallah khair,
Mashallah. Brother Jawad has been very good in keeping me informed. Mashallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Yeah, we work together and other people that contributed to this great success, inshallah.
Yeah, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, alameen.
So, Dr. Yaqub, I will introduce you.
Inshallah.
And then I will
make it short.
Inshallah. I will just say how I met you 30 years ago when I was young,
Right.
32 years actually ago.
Right.
The first ISNA conference that I attended, or 33 years ago.
Yeah, mashallah, that's a great history.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
Dr. Yaqub,
Yeah.
do you mind if you reflect maybe at the end? I will ask you questions about
Sure.
the scholarship that you provide with the Contemporary of Islamic Center, the Contemporary of Islamic.
Yeah, sure.
If you want to, in case people wants to
Sure.
think about graduate school and.
Absolutely. Yeah, this year we are going to offer 12 scholarships. Last year was 10, 5,000 each.
Yeah.
And one of the other projects which we are about to launch is very exciting.
That's
You
good.
will like that. Most of the imams or our imams don't have savings or retirement plans.
Yeah.
And we are encouraging them to open a savings account with Amana.
Alhamdulillah.
And every year, whatever they put in, we will match it 10%.
MashaAllah. And that's
And,
include teachers or Islamic school teachers?
Right now, we are starting with the imams because, somehow I feel they are overworked, underpaid, least appreciated.
Yeah.
And, they need to be recognized as our leaders.
That's true.
And inshallah, after our resources increase with your prayers and blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we can add assistant imams and teachers.
Inshallah.
Inshallah.
Excellent. May Allah bless you, inshallah. And Imam defined, is anybody that leads the prayers in an Islamic center? Huh?
Yeah, pretty much. We include the chaplains in it also for the scholarship program. The idea is to encourage them to save.
Yeah.
And then I will explain, inshallah, when the time comes. We are developing a certain incentives beside the 10%.
Yeah.
Amana has agreed that when we reach to 30 imams, they will offer Umrah ticket for one imam per year.
That's good.
And University Islamic Finance has agreed to waive the application fee, which is about $1,000. If they refinance or finance their homes through them. And things like this, we're trying to encourage.
Excellent. This is great, and my dream is to do the teachers too.
Yeah, inshallah.
Yeah, and the community counselors and chaplains and.
Yeah, if you help us to raise money for them, we can certainly include them. It's the 10% which we have to see how much can we afford each year.
Inshallah.
Yeah, inshallah.
When
the other program which Ahmed Attab is working on now is to help the mosques in smaller cities. And, in smaller cities, they don't have enough people to, make the financial contributions. And they don't have the people like Portland. So they may need $5,000-$10,000 to finish their, roof or their bathrooms or carpet or whatever. And they have no way to do it unless there's outside help.
Yeah. That's great. Dr. Majdi, Brother Ahmed Al-Hattab, he works now for Sterling Management, or?
Yeah, he's with us, yes.
That's good.
He's helping with the center. And since he left ISNA, I love him. He's a wonderful brother, mashallah.
Yeah.
And we told him to join us, and he did. So he's handling the teacher training, imam training, the scholarships, and all those programs.
Excellent, you know. And
Iqbal Yunus is working with us and helping us with
excellent,
that.
you know. Alhamdulillah. Is the Fairfax Center is still active? Or?
Yeah, they are, but not as regular as one would, think.
Excellent. And I know Brother Iqbal, for that long as
yeah,
well.
for a long time, sure.
A great man, May Allah bless him. And Dr. Sayyid Muhammad Sayyid used to send me books from Triple IT.
Right.
1988,
Right.
And MASA, Middle East Association of North America, MISA, had their annual conference in Portland in 1988, and I just came a few months, and so he sent us, great books that we had book exhibit there.
Right.
And we made our first $3,000 as an MSA.
MashaAllah. Yeah, that's a history. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. And I'm really honored to meet you and meet all the Triple
Likewise.
IT team, and Dr. Barzanji, rahmatullah alayhi, and
yeah, mashallah.
And Dr. Taha Jabir Alwani, rahmatullah alayhi, and many other great, may Allah bless them all, inshallah.
I mean, yeah, I was at their graves a couple of weeks ago. They are just here in Sterling, not very far.
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. I think we should start, Sister Elvira. I'm going to start the webinar. Doctor, you have the slides for your presentation?
Yeah, Brother Jawad has it. I have them.
Not the waqf, the book, your book.
No, the book, I'm not going to show you slides.
Okay,
I'll
no
just
problem.
talk.
Okay. But you're going to reflect on it, inshallah.
I will answer the questions. Yeah.
No problem, inshallah. Elvira, if you don't mind to admit everybody to come in. We have a large group in YouTube and Facebook and WhatsApp and Twitter, Doctor.
Oh, mashallah, that's great.
We usually attract about 500 plus,
Mashallah, that's a very good number.
Alhamdulillah, this social media give us a very beautiful access, and absolutely. People watch from Europe and from Egypt, from Morocco and and many other places in Asia, and Africa.
Yeah, mashallah, great, very good.
Alhamdulillah. Jawad and Elvira, if you don't mind to let everybody come in, and if you watch that too, we'd really appreciate it. Assalamu alaikum, everybody, and peace be upon you, and blessed final days of Ramadan to all of us that are fasting, and may God bless us and bless humanity at large as well. Welcome everyone to the second session of investing as a form of social responsibility, building a wealth and communities. We are really blessed, and honored, to have our second speaker. Our first speaker was Dr. Yahya Abdurrahman, the president and founder of Lariba Bank, also known as American Finance House. And today we have another gentle giant, Dr. Yaqub Mirza. I had the honor and the blessings to know Dr. Yaqub Mirza in 1988 when I was a young man coming as an international student, to Portland, Oregon. I met him in Chicago at the Islamic Society of North America. The International Institute of Islamic Thought at that time had a symposium, and Dr. Yaqub Mirza and many other great members of the International Institute of Islamic Thought were there. The International Islamic Thought is the premier international organization focusing on providing a platform for the unique perspective of Muslim thinkers and scholars and practitioners in the humanities and social sciences. Dr. Yaqub Mirza was one of the founders of this great institution. Dr. late, Ismail al-Faruqi was the founder, and late, Taha Jabir Alwani and Dr. Barzanji and Dr. Tutanji and Dr. Hisham al-Talib and many others that have founded this great organization. Dr. Yaqub Mirza is the president and the CEO of Sterling Management Group. Dr. Mirza is also the chairman of the board of trustees of the Amana Mutual Fund, an asset nearly $4.5 billion. He is a member of the board of directors of University of Islamic Financial Corporation, a banking subsidiary, and a member of the board of trustees of George Mason University Foundation. Dr. Mirza is also the president and trustee of the Center for Islamic in the Contemporary World at Shenandoah University. He's also a member of the Council of Advisors of Muslim Philanthropy Initiative at Lilly Family School of Philanthropy in Indiana University. He's the author of the 5 Pillars of Prosperity, Essentials of Faith-Based Wealth Building, published by White Cloud Press. He holds a PhD in physics and MA in teaching science from the University of Texas at Dallas. Dr. Mirza is a leading Muslim scholar when it comes to finance and philanthropy. About the book, The 5 Pillars of Prosperity provides readers with a balanced and sensible approach for financial planning and security. Dr. Mirza presents a powerful and provocative case for arranging one's life and the material pursuits in a way that not only benefit the reader, but also society at large. He shows how the attainment of wealth and prosperity can be achieved by following 5 key activities: earning, saving, investing, spending, and giving. Without further delay, let us welcome our beloved brother, Dr. Yaqub Mirza. Dr. Yaqub Mirza, assalamu alaikum. What a blessing to have you today with us.
Wa alaikum assalam. Thank you so much, Brother Wajdi and Brother Jawad, for inviting me. This is my second time I've been honored to speak at MET, Muslim Education Trust. When we visited, we were very impressed, and may Allah guide you and bless you for all the good work which you are doing in Portland, Oregon area. As far as my book is concerned, I just want to read this thing for you, which kind of summarizes the book in a very short way. Before you speak, listen. Before you write, think. Before you spend, earn. Before you invest, investigate. Before you criticize, wait. Before you pray, forgive. Before you quit, try. Before you retire, save. Before you die, give. So that is by William Ward, but it very much summarizes the book. Now, the concept in the book basically comes from a father, which taught me how to live debt-free life. And when I was growing up, he told me that if you borrow money from someone and you could not return, and if you hurt the feeling of someone and you did not apologize, those 2 sins or bad things will not be forgiven by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It will only be forgiven by the person who is affected. Of course, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may forgive with His mercy all other sins which we may commit or wrongdoings. So this left a very marked impression on me that I do not want to encourage or get into debt. So while we're here, we try to live our life free of debt. Now, my wife and myself, we admire and value education very, very much. We think that education is crucial for future growth, for our children, for the community, for be able to live, with a good active life. We also, in the introduction of the book, I also talk about that while we believe in Quran being the final revelation. We believe in Torah, the New Testament and the Old Testament, and that there's a continuation from Judaism to Christianity and to Islam. And I tried to show in this book that how certain things like inheritance law, like charitable giving, has been a continuation of those three great Abrahamic faiths. So the first chapter is talked about earnings, and Prophet Muhammad ﷺ clearly emphasized the importance of working and earning a livelihood in the following words. He said, to strive to earn a livelihood through the right means is an obligation after the obligation of prayer. And bread earned by one's own labor or effort is the best of all things. So the earning, as you can see, is very highly encouraged in Islam. After earning, the second pillar talks about savings. Now we can earn, but if we save all what we earn, we are living a good life, we are having a good time, but we have nothing to save and then invest and then spend it later or to give to other people. So saving is very, very crucial. I spend a lot of time on discussing the concept of savings. Now, I give an example about the saving. Franklin Benjamin, he used to say that if you save $1, as if you have earned $1. I take a little bit difference in opinion with him. I say that if you save $1, you have as if you have earned $1.50. And the reason being that when you earn $1.50, you have to pay federal tax, state tax. And then if you buy something, you have to pay the sales tax and you end up with $1. So when you save $1, you should reward yourself as if you have earned $1.50. Now, a lot of people, they say, well, I try to save, but I cannot. So on page 29 to 30th, we have given you a budget to save graphs and charts where you can actually see where your money is spent, and then how can you budget to save. So the first rule of making money is not to lose it. Before making a purchase, you always ask yourself, is it a necessity or is it a want? And avoid making purchases on credit unless you pay off your credit card in full each month. So then we go to the investing. Once you have enough money, then we start investing. So about investing, Warren Buffett said, he bought a first stock when he was 7, but he feels that he should have started it early. So the point being that start as early as possible and save as much as you can. And then I would add to it, save regularly. And, that will give you cost averaging, which we'll talk about it in a little while. So on page 39 of the book, you will see that I've given an example of 3 people. First, one of them invested $10,000 only for 5 years, $2,000 each. And the second one invested $16,000. And the last person invested $78,000, but starting at age 27 to all the way to 65. The person who started at age 14 and invested only $10,000, $2,000 each for 5 years, end up with 1.17 million, whereas the person who invested 78,000, but invested for many, many years, ends up only with $800,000. So this is not unreal. If you look at any good investment, such as a Mana Mutual Fund, you will see that we do realize these type of returns. Of course, don't take my word for it. You need to read the prospectus of Amana and then see if this fund is for you. So the point in this chart is that sooner you invest, smaller amount you invest, you end up with a big amount as compared to someone who starts late and invests almost 7 times more money. The chapter 4 or pillar 4, I talk about planned spending. Now, I'm sure everybody knows how to spend money, but my way is slightly different. And that is that you say that I want to buy a car, you plan for it, how you are going to buy it, and save money on a regular basis, monthly or quarterly or yearly. When you get income tax refund, that will be your yearly saving. And then save enough money, and they are given, the calculations are given in the book, how to calculate, and then have the money ready to pay for that car and buy it without any credits, without any debt. Now, you will be wondering, well, if I need a car today, how I'm going to wait for 5 years or 4 years to pay off and have a car free and clear. So what I have done in my life, I buy a used car, which is in good running condition. My first car I bought in the 70s was $150, and then I was able to afford it more, so I bought one for $425, and my third car was $1,500. So you buy one which you can afford and pay cash, and then you save money so you can buy a new car or a good used car, which is without any debt or borrowing. Similarly, if a child is born after 18 years or so, a child will be grown up to go to college. You can make a plan. The tables are given in the book, where you can basically determine if they are going to go to a state university, how much money you will need. If they're going to go to private school, how much money you are going to need. And every month you put away that amount, which will be sufficient eventually for that child to go to college. Being involved with the several universities, I can tell you that the scholarships are drying out. The state is cutting the money which has been given to the universities, and you really cannot depend on the scholarships or the grants which are currently available, that they will be available 18 years from now. One way that grandparents can help the grandchildren is to contribute to their ESA, Education Savings Account, where money grows tax-free until it is withdrawn for education purposes, and it is tax-free. If you withdraw it for any other purpose, you have to pay tax on it. It's a great way to save and grow money, because there are not too many places where you can grow money tax-free. If a newborn is, a friend has a new child, this is what we do. And instead of giving them a box of diaper, which everybody else might do the same thing, or giving them, some clothes, we write a check in the name of Amana Mutual Fund and give it to them with the ESA form, and tell them that as soon as you get the birth certificate and the Social Security number for the child, please go ahead and open the Education Savings Account. And of course, the check is in the name of Amana, so they cannot really cash it. And many parents have told me that that is the best gift we have ever, or they have ever received. And this encourages them to put in more money since the account has already been started. So there are many ways you can, give and help the community. This is a planned way of spending money. Now, last chapter, pillar 5, before the last, I talk about giving. Giving is very, very important, and I'm very passionate about it, particularly about zakah. Zakah is so important that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made it a third pillar of Islam. If we don't practice it, we are violating one of the pillars of Islam. Now, as we know, there are 8 categories in Quran where the sadaqah or the zakah money can be given. And we start with poor, with needy, and then the third category is the people who are collecting zakah. So really, if MET is having a person going out collecting zakah, even Quran says that you can pay that person because you are helping people to accomplish the third pillar of Islam or to practice it. Now, one of the category of zakah is that you relieve people from debt. Just think about it. To me, it means that nobody's going to come to me and say, you know, I have $70,000 credit card debt. Please give me your zakat so I can pay off the debt. Even if they do that, this is not what we want. We don't want to humiliate them. They have respect, they have honor. So to me, what it means is that we have to be so much involved in the community, and we have to be so close to each other that without that person asking, we would know that this person is under debt, or this person needs help to, pay off some of the obligations, or this person lost a job, or this person had medical issue. So we need to know each other closely in an intimate way, so we are able to realize that this person is in need, and then we can very quietly give them the help which they properly deserve. Now, one of the purpose of zakah is to eliminate poverty. And we look around, there is still a lot of poverty. And we ask the question, why is so? Why we still have poverty? Now, one thought may come that, maybe 2.5% or 10% of the dividend or the profit is not enough. Of course, we cannot say that because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knew there should be enough. And if it was not enough, he could have made it 5%. But in his wisdom, which we honor and respect, he made it 2.5% and 10% of the crops and so on and so forth. Now, so why we still have poverty? I ponder on this issue quite a bit. And my conclusion is that if we are able to understand the concept of zakah, and we do enough work to educate people about concept of zakah, and we properly calculate it and give it out each year, we should be able to eliminate poverty. Now, the example of that is that in the history, during Hazrat Islam's time, it actually happened. People had zakah money in their pockets, and they were going around, looking for people who deserve to get zakah. They could not find people. So I made a rough calculation at our community, looking at how many people, attend Jummah prayers, what's the average salary in our area, what's the average nisab in our area, and made a calculation. So my feeling is, and of course I understand this is a rough calculation. Many people, may not give zakat to the Islamic Center. Instead, they may distribute themselves, send it back home or whatever. But my estimation is that zakah which our centers are collecting for distribution to needy people is around 1/10 of what we should be collecting. And my wife is involved in social work, so I asked her this question. You are raising $3 million right now, each year. If you happen to get $30 million, what will you do? And she said, I can change the face of this little city. There should be no poverty at all. So the lesson I draw is that we need to learn more about zakah, educate ourselves about zakah. And this is a good time when we are doing our tax returns We have all our 1099s and all the information is in our hands, W-2s, all the investment income. And as soon as we complete our tax return, the next thing we should do is to complete the right of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the calculation for zakah, and then give out. And then, alhamdulillah, this happens to be also month of Ramadan, because many people, they like to contribute or give zakah out in month of Ramadan. So to me, giving and helping other people is very, very crucial. One other thing I talk about in the book is that, we need to take care of our own immediate family. After we take care of our immediate family and our needs, we need to look at the extended family, which could be sister-in-laws, brother-in-laws, and relatives. And then once we have taken care of that, we should look at the community as a whole. And within the community, we should, find the people who are very close to us, and then the community at large. And when I talk about community at large, it could be community in which we may have people which belong to other faiths. And one of the category of zakah is to bring the hearts of those people closer to us. Now, if you feel that a person is able to maintain him or herself, but they don't have enough money to save, so what I suggest in the book is that we can open Roth IRAs for those people and contribute to their Roth IRA, which will give them money at retirement without any tax. And that's a great way to help some of the needy people. So I have, these are real examples. I can give you real numbers. For some people, you can contribute right now we can contribute up to $6,000 unless they bump into upper limit of the salary with these people around. And over time, it just accumulates. I know one person who has, started this thing like 15, 16 years ago, and now has about $200,000 into their Roth IRA, which is very good news because upon retirement, which they still have 10 years to go, they can just draw maybe $1,000 or $2,000 a month to supplement their retirement, their Social Security income, and have a very good life. So the idea here is that find ways and means. How can you help them save? If you don't want to give them money now, which is not a bad idea, they may spend it in a different way than what you like. But they may, if they don't have enough savings, help them to save for their retirement. At the end of the book, I argue a lot about giving while living. It's a different feeling, different thinking. And Dr. Jamal Barzanji and myself, we had a lot of discussions. And his view and my view, eventually, listening to him and discussing with him, we came to the point that what we need to do is to give good education to our children. And that's what our parents did. They give us education, Islamic and otherwise. And alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen, then we are on our own. So we give good education to our children, let them get good jobs. And then after that, we don't have to give them much of inheritance. As long as they are not begging and on the street, they are okay. Rest of the money we should give out to all the charitable causes which we think we want to support. Now, giving while living is very, very important, because when I was doing the research for my book, I found one hadith which roughly says that it is better for a man to give a dirham as a sadaqah while during a lifetime, which is better than 100 times given upon death. So I said to myself, gosh, why should I delay giving to death and get 1/100th of time the ajr. I should give it out while I'm living. The need is there. The people are waiting to be helped and to be assisted. Now, I understand that we are permitted to write in our wills, and we can will up to 1/3, which can be given to non-inheritors, for the poor, the needy, for teachers, friends, whomever you want to say. And that's fine. But why would you like to do that? Now, if everybody wishes and wills giving 1/3 of their assets upon death to non-inheritors, unintentionally, what we have done, we have created a group of people in the masjid who are waiting for me to die so they can get money to go and buy food or buy clothes, or they can get their children education and so on and so forth. Now, that's not a very comfortable position for us, because we want people to pray for our health rather than praying for our death. And essentially, that's what they will be doing. So I encourage and request every one of us, myself included, that we should give out as much as we can while we are living rather than delaying until death. Now, the other reason I argue about this one is that, let's say when upon death, you can say, give so much money to this entity, to Muslim Education Trust, for this scholarship, that scholarship. You have no way to control it, what happened to that money. But while we're living, if you give out money for a certain cause, and if that charity does not fulfill their promise, you can guide them, go and talk to them and tell them you can do this, or you can pick another charity and make sure that they do that. And then while you're living, you also see the results of your charitable giving. When children graduate from college, you can take comfort that now, alhamdulillah, they can get a job and support their family and be on their own. To my knowledge, there is no requirement that we have to have inheritance. The only limitation is that we should give enough or leave enough so that our offspring, our children, are not begging or they are not on the street. Other than that, we are free to give out as much as we can while we are living. And if we want to give to our children, then we have to treat male and female the same. But upon death, we cannot change that. It is the schedule defined in the Quran, has to be implemented. So that is the part of giving. At the end, I share with you that wills, trust, and different tax planning instruments, which are which beyond our discussion today. But please look at them. The book is available, ebook, that's free of cost. Brother Jawad and Brother Wajdi can provide you a copy. And if you find that it is useful, it is based on my own experience, which may be different than yours, then all I ask is to pray for me. Thank you so much for listening. May Allah be pleased with you, and happy Ramadan and Eid next week, inshallah.
Brother Wajdi, you're on mute.
Dr. Mirzad, if you go back, to your early years, we really appreciate your story and that inspired you to write this book. You mentioned your father's advice.
No.
And today, our young professionals and young audience, how do you advise them? What do you advise them for today in the 21st century? With the advancement of social media, with the advancement of our society, with all the opportunities and challenges, if you give them 3 advices, the 20th century is different than the 21st century. What's your advice, Doctor?
Yeah, thank you so much. let's see if I answer your question and you can help me what you have in mind. You know, my father, Rahmatullah, was an entrepreneur, and I learned quite a few things from him, how to run a business, how to, go to the bank and order things for import from outside the country and so on and so forth. At the same time, he was very honest and very hardworking person. So he has bought me books of hadith, which I used to help him in the shop along with other people. And in the break when we don't have many people buying customers, he will read some of the hadiths. I will listen and I will discuss it with him. And he emphasized the borrowing, that we should not borrow, and also that we should not hurt somebody's feeling. So my first advice is really very much these two things, if we keep in mind, this is wonderful. One, that we live within our means, save, invest, and delay the gratifications. Now, sometimes we tend to, kick our heels and we want to go and buy the newest iPhone, i12, and all the new gadgets and, everything else. But at the same time, we can be modest, save monies, and invest, and then enjoy them later. So in the book, I give the example when I was a student in 70s, I used to save $200 a month. And in 4 years, I had about $9,000. And if I invested that money at that time, now, it's like close to $1.5 to $2 million. And just imagine $9,000 invested 50 years ago would yield into a large sum. And obviously, that's what I did. And that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, blessed the investing, and we were able to buy our home, we were able to send our children to good universities, and so on and so forth. My children, they graduated without any loan. And that's a huge, huge blessing. Not many people are able to do that. So that is one thing. I also learned from my father how to take care of money of the waqf, of the trust. He was the chairman of the municipality, like a mayor, and I saw him while he was spending public money. He was very careful in making sure that this is, properly spent, it's not wasted, and so on and so forth. The example of that, I'm writing it in my second book. But so that is another thing. So our young people can follow the examples of their parents and pick up the good things which they can, and then communicate with their friends and others. The third really is caring about the others. We are created as human beings with the purpose of, helping each other and caring about others. Whether it's through social media, if somebody is unhappy, somebody lost their job, somebody lost a friend or a relative, nowadays, through social media, we can convey our condolences. We can, we have really created a universal family in which we can participate. When I was helping my father at the shop, in Urdu, I made a rubber stamp, which used to read like, Kamyabi ka raaz, pancho waqt namaz. So what it meant was that key to success is 5-time prayer. I was like maybe 12 years old, 13 years old. And my father, he used to sell the postcards and envelopes because the post office closes at early hour, 2 o'clock or so. But people need to send letters even after that. So he will sell it at cost. I'll go and buy them bulk, and then he will sell it. So what I used to do was put this rubber stamp at every postcard and every envelope. So there was no social media at that time, but this was without any cost, a way to send a message and to communicate to people who was writing the postcard, who's seeing it, who is receiving it. They will all see that if you want to be successful, you need to maintain your regular prayers.
Thank you, Dr. Mirza. Another follow-up questions in WhatsApp. You're watched, by the way, in WhatsApp and Twitter and other social media platform. If somebody today, Dr. Mirza, come and ask you, this is young professionals, what's the best investment that he can invest, he and his wife, to halal investment, that will advance them and increase their wealth?
Good question. As you know, I'm chairman of the board of Amana Mutual Fund, which we started in '84. We got the permission to start the fund and start taking the money in '86. So last 35 years, the fund is in existence. We started with $100,000, and now it has grown to 4.5 billion. And half of the investors are people of other faith. The performance has been very, very good. Now, I'm biased, so forgive me for that, but that's my view. There are other Islamic funds like Azad, like Aman Fund, and people can look at their prospectus, read the prospectus, look at the performance, and see in which one you want to invest. Amana has given a very good rate of return. Of course, we cannot guarantee the future. But one thing, please keep in mind, the young people, don't hurry to become rich. Don't look at these GameStop, Bitcoins, and others, which are very risky. And be patient. As Warren Buffett has said, don't invest in something which you don't understand, and invest for long haul, not for short period of time. And even in the Bible, there's a verse which says that people who are just plodding every day, they are not going to make it, but we need to look at it on a long-term basis. So save regularly, invest regularly, because that will give you cost averaging, and pick 1, 2, 3 funds, diversify, and put the money in it, and so to speak, forget about it. Now, that is for passive investing. That is that you personally don't want to, really get involved in investing. If you are entrepreneurial and you want to be entrepreneur, then you should, check yourself. Are you the material who is willing to take risk and have abundant energy and is willing to come up with some new invention, new ideas in which you can make the community or the world run better? Then you should certainly go for that. That's where you really create wealth. You come up with the things which will help people and humanity, and you can also provide job opportunities. But if you feel that you cannot be those people, then just regular job and investment in a mutual fund of your choosing, and then you will see the returns which you will realize.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mirza. We have a young professional by name of Rashad Kazemi, an Afghan American. Rashad, you can ask your question live if you would like, please.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum
salam.
Yeah, thank you for presenting. That was very valuable. And I have your book sitting here next to me that Brother Wajdi gave to me. So thank you for that, writing that as well. I just had a very technical question in regards to eligibility of the zakat calculation. Is long-term investments something such as a 10-year long commitment? Is that eligible for zakat calculation, or should that be postponed until the investment is realized?
It's a good question, and depends on where the investment is. I have discussed that in the book, chapter 5. And if you're talking about it's a mutual fund, or you bought, Microsoft stock or Apple, then Amana website gives you a way to calculate zakat on that. It's based on the article which I wrote, and Fiqh Council approved it. So let's say that you made a commitment, and or let's say you bought a piece of land or property, and you plan to sell it after 10 years. Now, if it's a piece of land, there is no zakat, but you pay zakat only on the crop which comes out of the land. And there are conditions, 5%, 10%, depending on it's rain cultivated, or it's man cultivated, man watered. If it is a mutual fund, then you can buy for $100 today. After 10 years, you sell it at $1,000. You pay the difference of that. Now, if it is a mutual fund, you pay 10% of the gain. If it is a CD, you pay 2.5% on the principal plus the interest, which of course I don't encourage, and we shouldn't have. But if you do, you pay on both. I am of the opinion that, and this is checked with many fuqaha, that if you make a long-term commitment and there is a way to evaluate it each year, then you pay zakat each year. It is better, because when you pay it after 10 years, it will be a lot of money, and that may be cumbersome. So let's take an example that you bought Amana Mutual Fund at $100 today, but you want to keep it for 10 years. And after you invested that in January, and after 1 year, end of December, it has gone up by $10. You basically pay $1 as a zakat, and you're done. For next year, your base becomes $110. And then if there's a growth for that year, you pay again 10%. If there's no growth, you don't pay anything. So that is what I have read and prefer. But if you want to, wait until the end and pay 2.5% of the whole thing, that's also possible.
Okay, thank you. And what about in terms of reinvestment? Let's say that something was profit was realized with a business venture, but then within the same zakat calendar year, that amount was reinvested in a long-term investment such as land, let's say. Would the original amount, would that be subject to zakat?
Yeah, sure. As you know, one of the definitions of zakat is increase or growth. So the businesses, as we look at it, or I do it personally on our businesses, we look at what is actually the realized as profit. And each year we give 10% of that. Now, if the money is reinvested, it is growing the net worth of the company. So you have two types of zakat. One will be that, let's say you bought a business for $100,000, and first year you realize $10,000 profit. You pay 10% of it, $1,000, and it is all done. But that remaining profit is reinvested. Until you sell the business, that increase may not be realized. So I'm of the view that you pay zakat on the amount which is realized. Because if you pay on the reinvestment, you will have to take money out of the business to pay zakah. So if profit is realized, but part of it is reinvested, you pay on the realized profit. What is reinvested, you pay when that produces results.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you very much, Rashad. And Dr. Mirza, we have a question that is saying that are there investments accounts, portfolios in Amana mutual funds or others that is strictly formed for a growing zakah money? Growing money for zakah purposes is an accepted concept in Islam, given there are risks.
I'm not sure what you mean by for zakah purposes. Would you please explain that?
Are there what they're trying? This is an anonymous attendee that is asking: is there any portfolios or accounts in Amana that somebody wants to put their zakah money for the purpose for the purpose to grow the zakah money and then they invest it?
Distribute, I get it. Generally, we should not do that because the zakat money is a liability. If you lose it, it becomes a debt on the person, and there is a need, and you have to, give it out. So I would suggest and advise that we should not keep zakah money in Amana or anywhere else with the hope to grow it and give it more. Zakah money should be given out as soon as it is due and there are people in need. Now, having said that, you could buy a orphanage with zakah money and give it to some organization to run it as orphanage, because then it is used for zakatable purposes. You can pay for digging a well or digging, a clinic or, some walk-in clinic, free walk-in clinic. You can buy the building, you can, buy the pharmacy, you can pay the staff because it is serving a purpose which is zakatable, for which zakah can be used. But generally, zakah money should not be invested to grow because we don't know. Future, only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows. Last year in March, when the stock market went down and many businesses started losing, there was no assurances that how the money is going to be and how the year is going to be. But alhamdulillah, thank God, stock market turned around, business turned around. But if you had taken the zakah money and invested in airlines or in the hotel business, imagine what will happen to that zakah money. And as I said, it will be a loan on you, a debt which you must pay. I would say that you save your own money, invest in any mutual fund you like, and then pay zakah on the profit as soon as zakah is due. And by the way, we do provide the calculation for zakah, but we don't distribute it because that is up to you, whom you want to give and how much you want to give.
Thank you very much, Dr. Yaqub, and thanks for the question here. Dr. Mirza, when it comes, to your book, going back to your book, you spend a large amount to explain, the concept of giving, and giving while living, Can you expand on what that means exactly when it comes to the details, the acceptance of zakah funds, the donor advised funds, the charitable trust, and then the waqf system in Islam, help and advance, the community, the economic development, the spiritual, the physical aspects of the community. Can you elaborate also in the waqf system as well?
Sure. As far as giving while living is concerned, I briefly talked about it. To me, it is very, very crucial because, as I mentioned, need is out there. There are people in need. There are students who need to pay their tuition fee. There are scholars who need to do research on very good Islamic topics. They don't have the means. And there are, people who need to eat, not only here, but, in many parts of the world. So really, there is no need to hold money or keep money until you die. And as I also quoted the hadith, that you are denying yourself 100 times the reward just by delaying giving upon death. So we have made a plan. We as a family, we said we are going to provide education resources to our children. Alhamdulillah, 3 of them, they got their PhDs, and the 4th one has MBA. They're working. And then we give them a reasonable amount, help them with, buying their homes or cars, and a little more. And then give money for education for the grandchildren. But rest of it, myself and my wife, Tanveer, we donate and give it out to different causes which we like. And we created our own family foundation where we have list of priorities. First one obviously is to help poor and the needy. Second one is to offer scholarships. The third one is for civil rights, and so on and so forth. Lately, there's a lot of talk about diversity, inclusion, and equity. That has drawn my attention quite a bit. So both universities where I'm on the board, we have initiated the project Diversity, Inclusion, and Equity, where we want to provide opportunities for minorities, immigrants, people of color to be able to get scholarships, help them with research, give them grants so they can go and attend some conference or professional conferences and be able to advance. Otherwise, it will never happen. Now, many of the boards I am on, we always talked about diversifying the board. So we have, more sisters on the board, we have more people of color, and so on and so forth. But then we look around and we come back and say, well, we don't find qualified people. So my answer is that let's start something, a scholarship program, and pick people who are from diversified background and help them to get their master's degrees or PhDs. So after 4 or 5 years, we will have a pool of people to choose from. And then we don't have this excuse that we don't have the people. So both University George Mason and Shenandoah, they have started that program. We have, contributed to that fund, and we are hoping that fund will produce some results. But the Wajdi had mentioned that we started a scholarship program for the children of the imams, because in my mind, imams are our leaders, spiritual guide, our counselor. They are head of the community. They act like our mentors. And I know we are not able to pay them high salaries. So therefore, they have limited resources to save for their retirement, as well as be able to send their children to college. So realizing this need, we offered 10 scholarships last year. This year, we'll be advertising very soon. We're offering 12 scholarships for the children of the imams and the chaplains, $5,000 each. And this is every year project. It is partly supported by us, Amana Mutual Fund, and then the University Islamic Finance. Next thing, we are going to start a savings plan for the imams. So as you can tell, the focus is to help our community members, irrespective of they are our relatives or they're not our relatives, and make our community strong. So we are here as a strong community, not as immigrant community. And all the time people are telling us we are here to take advantage rather than giving back. So that is that. Now, as far as the donor advised fund is concerned, it's basically a 501c3 organization, but organized in a way that a donor can contribute, but have the right to recommend or make suggestions how much and when and to whom the money should be given. So the example is that I live in Virginia. Our mosque was built in 2002. Before that, we were, using a building, a triple IT building for prayers. And we happened to sell one investment in which I personally realized gain. This was in '99. So I wanted to do something for my parents. And I was, looking at what can I do. So I said, okay, we'll create, let's say, 2 rooms, school rooms in our center. But center was not quite ready to be built. So what we did, we put this money into the donor advised fund for a charitable organization. And we said, let it grow until the center is ready to start building and they need the money, we'll give it to them. So center finally was built in 2002. So 3 years that money was invested and we gave them like almost 30% more money than what we had put in. One can, when December comes, we get bonuses. Our tax people tell us how much tax we are going to pay. And we feel that instead of paying 30% tax, maybe I should give out some money for charity to Muslim Education Trust. But then I'm not sure, do they really need money now or they need it in January? Or I want to visit and, have a discussion with them, which project I want to fund. So what you do is you give money to a donor advised fund, write a check of $30,000, get a deduction, but then you have all the time to decide and make recommendations how much, when, and which organization you want to give. So that's really the way donor advised fund, work. Any other? Did I miss anything to cover?
I think you did an excellent job, Doctor, and
thank you.
And we are looking forward for your advice and your consultation. We are launching our Waqfuna, our endowment, Doctor. We have still we paid $1.5 million in our Qard Hassan, a beautiful loan that, and we still have $3 million that we need to pay the community. And we would like your opinion, Doctor. Jawad is going to present for you and the audience, in terms of Waqfuna and our endowment, based on your advice and based on your writings and based in. Jawad, you want to go ahead, and then Dr. Yaqub can elaborate.
Yeah, he started. Thank you so much, Brother Jawad and Brother Wajdi.
Thanks.
I love endowments and the Waqf. That's what we have done for the last 40 years. And I can humbly report to you that the endowments work. It's the best way to fund our activities. And Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, we started in '86 with almost no money. And over a period of time, that endowment has grown into hundreds of millions of dollars. And it takes a lot of discipline, it takes hard work, but they do work. So if I had to give one piece of advice, I would say, start your endowment, as little money as is, doesn't matter, it will grow. And let me share with you the Center of Islam in the contemporary world at Shannon University is not raising any funds from anybody. We are not having fundraisers. We are not begging any money. We are using all our energy to do activities which are good for the community. And how are we funding 3 families from their savings, and they have created endowment that is funding the center. It's really, I'm so thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and perhaps we are the only or the second institution in America who can say that we are self-funded rather than raising money at every convention, conference, every prayer, and all that. It takes a lot of effort, but if you make a plan, put 10% of your revenues away into an endowment or investment, it will grow, and you will, have no need to, ask for money. Now, what are the endowments? It's basically one of the concepts of the endowment is that you tie down a certain asset and use the fruits of that asset or the profits from that asset for charitable purposes. Now, endowment are long-term and they have a long life. There's nothing I can think of which live forever. But endowment investments, if they are managed properly, they will live forever. And it is a way to have fairness in the society. Let's say we are well-to-do, but we want to make sure our children and grandchildren have same level of living or standard of living, and we can do that only through endowments. And it's a fairness. The Surah Yusuf is very clear, where Yusuf alayhi salam saved at time of plenty and use it at time of need. And he sort of created a pseudo endowment where he can, keep certain amount of corn when it was drought, sow it when the rain comes, and then you have plenty of fruit to share. They are permanent as long as investments are growing. They're permanent. A lot of people, they say, well, money just sit there. Why should I contribute to an endowment? Well, that is the purpose of the endowment. Endowment are extremely helpful when economic life is uncertain, and we know that happens all too often. If there is a crash, there's stock market went down, there's an inflationary factor, you can draw on the endowment to make up for the time being. Next, please. So whenever there is a need, you can draw on the endowment. Now, the endowment can also help develop the community. As Brother Wajdi mentioned, that you still have to pay Qarde Hasna. You can borrow from your endowment and take care of that need. When the money is raised, you can return back the money into the endowment. Now, you can create endowment for anything you wish. And ask the question to yourself, is it better for your children to leave a trust account rather than a great society? More likely, if you leave a trust account for them, they are going to buy a BMW, they are not going to get MBA. And it is loving and giving that makes life worth living. Next, please. So legacy of hope. Give hope to people. If we create an endowment just to feed hungry people or help orphans or education, scholarship fund, lots of endowments one can create for education, which will, give out scholarship to students. If you do that, then you are giving hope to those people that there is an endowment. Of course, you have to compete and you have to have good grades to get money from the endowment, but at least they are hopeful that there is some way they are going to be able to, pay for all those expenses. And if a man brings up and educates an orphan, he will be as near to paradise as the fingers of a hand are near to each other. This is the hadith of Rasulullah. So you can see how much reward is there to help raise an orphan. And there are many, many verses in Quran how to take care of the orphans. Now, we know that when somebody dies, you cannot do anything good, but there are three things which will continue to give you reward, and that is Sadaqah Jariyah. If you created or established an endowment where people can continuously benefit from, you build a road, you created a scholarship fund, you created an orphanage, you created a walk-in health clinic, that is part of Sadaqah Jariyah. Let's say that you also give lectures and talks and people are benefiting from your knowledge. As long as people are benefiting from it, inshallah, my book will be part of Sadaqah Jariyah. That's the second aspect. The third is that any of our offspring, including young people whom we have helped, will benefit and they pray for your forgiveness. So really, these are three things which can, give you ajr even after death. So there's a great way to, earn reward even after death. Now, funding these endowments, we know we can give zakah for orphanage or anything which is for the purpose of helping the community. We can give sadaqah, which is above zakah. We can have in our bills to give up to 1/3 for any purposes, including to establish an endowment. But then there is another category, which is in Quran, and often we don't talk about it. And that is, there's a verse which says that when inheritance is distributed, inheritors, people who receive the inheritance, are encouraged. They are told that give out some money to your needy relatives who may be present at the time of distribution, which is a very great way also to broaden the circle and the number of people who will receive an inheritance. So endowment in brief is a great mechanism, great Sadaqah Jariyah, to fund various needs of the community on an ongoing long-term basis.
Dr. Mirza, may Allah bless you for such beautiful elaborations. When we built the center, the Muslim Education Trust, it all depended on what we call the Sadaqah Jariyah, the continuous charity. Now we are in that stage, to elaborate more so we can pay off the loan and grow our assets. And Jawad Khan, our Chief Programming Officer, will present to you and the audience. We have, by the way, over 900 people watching you, Doctor, in all the platforms of social media.
Thank you.
May Allah bless you and may Allah reward you. May Allah make your talk a Sadaqah Jariyah, inshallah, as well,
Thank you,
inspire many others. Jawad, do you mind if you go a little bit over the slides?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Brother Wajdi, and thank you, Dr. Mirza, for your presentation and your book. We were at Taraweeh prayer last night, and I was talking to some of our graduates, some of our students about your presentation. And I've also recommended your book to them, and a few of them are reading it as we speak, as they begin college. So thank you for that. This idea of the endowment is something that has been on our mind, because the establishment of the endowment sends a signal to the community that we're not a nascent new community anymore. Like, as Dr. Mirza mentioned, is that when communities began, not just the Muslim community, but every community that first comes to the United States, for example, starts off very reactionary. There's a need, so we go to the masjid and we ask on a Friday, and we're always very reactionary. But as our community grows, and our community is now, in whichever city we're in, is very different than it was 50 years ago, 40 years ago, 30 years ago, even 10 years ago. And now we're more stable. We're beginning to see the second generations, the third generation even. And so the needs are different. And so now this is the time where we have to show a plan, strategic map of how we're going to have continuity in our programs, how there's going to be long-term stability in our programs, in our services, in our buildings. And the way to do this, as Dr. Mirza beautifully described to us, is through an endowment. And when we built this center and was finally completed in 2015, we originally had this idea of the symbolic shares. And as the hadith that Dr. Mirza mentioned, when a person dies, all his or her good deeds cease, except for three: a continuous act of charity, beneficial knowledge, or a righteous child who makes dua for him or her, as in Sahih Muslim. And so we had these 4 shares that people could buy and invest in the building of this community center. And now that the community center is built, there's a lot of excitement always for the building of something, but not for the continuity of things, generally speaking. And so we have 4 different ways of symbolically investing in the long-term stability of this organization, the Muslim Educational Trust, not just the physical building itself. And the physical building itself is extraordinarily important. When I was young and I was growing up in the United States, there weren't physical buildings that were owned by Muslims, that didn't have, we were always renting other places to go play basketball, to have walimas, to have weddings. There were always community centers of other places. But what that does is that doesn't show that this is ours. We belong here. We have roots here. And so the physical edifice is very important for the landscape and the psychology of the second generation, the third generation, inshallah, the more generations after that. So we have an honoring share, a faithfulness share, a thankfulness share, and an enlightenment share. In each one, the $400, you symbolically invest in the Muslim Educational Trust and in the programs and its outreach and other things, which I'll mention briefly here in the next slide. But with these shares, you can physically, with your money, invest in something that's going to bring long-term goals for the continuity of the Muslim community. People are under the misapprehension that things will just go on as they are, that nothing changes. But as those of you who are here, who have children or are children, as we know, things change, the way people look at the world change. And for this continuity, for all the things that we have built and all the things that we have for it to continue, it has to be through organizations. It has to be through our own organizations and our buildings and our programs for this to continue on. And so the Muslim Educational Trust offers 4 of these different types of symbolic shares that you can buy for $400. And you can honor yourself, your mother, your father, your friends, other loved ones, your children, your spouse. And with this share, you are saying, I am going to invest in a building. I am going to invest in an organization. I am going to invest forever, even after I'm gone, even after the people I know who are gone, that the institution will continue on, where people will gather, where people will have weddings, where people will be educated, where people will play sports, where people will learn about Islam, as I'll mention in brief in the next slide. So this will be your investment into the Muslim Educational Trust, a permanent charity waqf that will continue to live on even after we're gone, inshallah. And if you are interested in this, please contact us at leadership@metpdx.org. You can visit our site, and we'd be happy to talk to you more about this. This will be the things that will continue on for us long after we're gone, inshallah. There are 4 areas that your investment into the waqf will go. And overall, we'll have a general fund. If you give your waqf, if you want to donate to the waqf in the general fund, you will leave it up to the Muslim Educational Trust to see where it goes, where it's most needed. And that is the first level. But the waqf endowment will support these 4 areas. And I want to begin with the programs, because the programs are what's keeping the spirit of this faith through the generations. It's what's creating the continuity for it. And not only that, but it's also exposing others to this beautiful faith. We as Muslims, we have this faith, we live this faith, we understand this faith, and sometimes we take this faith for granted. But these programs, other people get to see the beauty and the egalitarian nature and the perfectness of this faith, that what they assume that they knew about certain prohibitions, or that Muslims are this or that from what they see in the media, but what true Islam really stands for. So in the programs, the fund will support the enhancement of MET's current program lineup, including annual conferences, panel discussions, workshops pertaining to addressing contemporary topics of interest to our community, both Muslim and non-Muslim alike. It also covers expenses associated with our Speakers Bureau, in which we reply to invitations from the community at large, governmental agencies, K-12 schools, colleges, libraries, churches, synagogues, with regards to the Islamic faith and culture series within our faith community, cultural competence training, and Islamophobia workshops. The amount of demand is enormous, and there are only few of us able to deliver as of now. With the endowment and the investment in the endowment, we can hire, we can train, we can staff people who will be able to go to schools when they ask for, can somebody talk about Islam? When the Oregonian, as this past week, we just spoke to the Oregonian about a story on Ramadan. And there are other newspapers who are asking. These programs can be staffed through this investment in this endowment that allows for enough people to be trained who will be adequately paid and feel that they are giving back to this community and that they can survive in this world, and what they get paid to do something that they love. And these are the type of programs that will accentuate and allow other people to see the true beauty of this faith and the true character of this faith. Programs also include interfaith and interfaith programs that celebrate our diversity and help build bridges of compassion and understanding with our community members in the greater Portland area, such as the Building Bridges Forum Summit that for the 5th year anniversary this year, where we brought law enforcement and prosecution and community leaders together to talk about community policing. Additionally, youth leadership and recreational programs under the umbrella of Oregon Muslim Youth are an integral part of the funding goals for this component of our endowment fund. MET is also the co-founding member of Institute for Christian Muslim Understanding, Arab Jewish Muslim Dialogue, Interfaith Council of Greater Portland, and Between Women Interfaith Group. Additionally, this past year, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, we had to pivot and provide our programming online in a virtual format. And we saw American Muslims in the public square. We saw judges, we saw lawyers, we saw doctors, we saw educators, we saw imams. We saw people who are making a difference, Muslims making a difference in the public square in the United States. And when people see this within our own faith, we saw the wide diversity. The Muslim community is the most diverse community in the United States. And people should know that. And when they see that, when they see people who are of African descent, of Asian descent, of European descent, they're all Muslim, they share the same faith. That we ourselves see the beauty of our faith, but also outside people who have a misapprehension or they have stereotypes about what Muslims look like or who they are or where they come from, they see our wide diversity and how we're making a difference. And we saw that through our virtual programming. So the endowment fund that people give into, as Dr. Mirza was talking about his organization, the organization Institute of Islamic Thought, that this is funded purely through endowment, that fundraising is not needed because there's so much time and energy and effort that goes through fundraising, asking people. When you don't have as much time to put into programs, as Dr. Mirza mentioned, is that without having to do the fundraising, it goes into programs that directly benefit the Muslim community in one of two ways. One is for the people themselves to take part in programs, but also it's for other people to understand Islam better. And when people begin to understand Islam better, it makes for a reducing of Islamophobia in our country.
Jawad, thank you very much. Do you mind, people just want to see the shares if you go back the slides before this. And then we have more questions for Dr. Yaqub, so we can
okay.
Go ahead and elaborate a little bit on this, Jawad, just to...
On the shares?
Yeah.
Okay, so each share is $400, and the titles are symbolic: honoring share, the faithfulness share, the thankfulness share, and the enlightenment share. And when you purchase one of the shares, you're purchasing that you are investing into the Muslim Educational Trust, both the physical building itself and through our programs. And then your money here that's bought through one of these shares, that whom you choose to honor or you dedicate to, will be sadaqah al-jariyah for you. Every child who learns at the Muslim Educational Trust learns Quran, learns how to pray. Everyone who comes in and learns about the effects of Islamophobia, everyone who comes in and understands Islam better and they go out and propagate it themselves, this will be charity for you as long as you live. And then even after our time comes when we go back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that will be sadaqah al-jariyah for us.
Thanks, Jawad. Appreciate it. May Allah bless you and reward you. Dr. Yaqub, we have a question here online in WhatsApp. The question is, did the Prophet have encouraged Muslims to make waqf, endowment? And then what areas of investments that you recommend today, or case studies that you are involved in endowment funds here in the US, in businesses that...
Before I answer the question, I really want to commend Brother Jawad's presentation and Brother Wajdi for MET to initiate these 4 categories and raise funds for the specific endowment and those purposes. It's a great thing to do, and I would say don't be discouraged. Continuously keep on asking people for the investment. And on the endowment, I personally feel that people who are 60 and above should be the one you should contact and focus on raising money for endowments. People who are younger people, they should pay for the operational expenses, current expenses, because their children are utilizing the center, the school, and everything else. So the people who are 60 and plus, they have, mashallah, good careers. They are having good careers, and they are sort of planning, what can they do to make a difference in this world, and what best can be to contribute to these 4 categories and leave a mark which they will earn rewards for many, many years to come. As to your question, when we started the endowment, it was in 86, we had nothing to start with, but then it grew to about $10 million in 95. And from there onward, we did not raise any money. We did not beg any money. And as I mentioned, it grew to more than several $100 million. So if you're starting the endowment now, my simple suggestion would be, depending on what the size is, let's say it is $500,000, you can select an Islamic mutual fund like Amana and put your money and let it kind of grow. Amana Mutual Fund, again, don't quote me because these are results, previous results. In the last 5 years, we have generated 20% on the average rate of return. There is no guarantee this year, it may be negative. God knows what will happen this year. But if you had invested money 5 years ago, it is almost going to be triple by now. So it is nicely managed, professionally managed. We're seen by a board of trustees, audited and everything, where you can be assured that the SEC, through the trustees and various mechanisms, are making sure that money is properly invested. And read the prospectus and make sure this is the fund which you want to invest. A lot of people, they argue that why don't we buy a home next to the masjid for $500,000 and we can rent it out, and this can be income and the family can come and pray to the masjid. Sure, you can do that. But as a business person, I look at where I get better rate of return, where I have better liquidity, because in stocks, if you need it, you can always liquidate. Whereas real estate, right now, it's very hard market. But if the market is not so good, you cannot sell it. And rate of return from the rental is very little. And you don't want mosque to get involved in managing real estate or renting out homes where people will call in the middle of the night and say, come and fix my commode, and so on and so forth. So, you can do it, but it's not something will be my first preference. We don't have any rental properties. But if you then want to, let's say money has grown and you want to venture a little bit more into high risk area, you can look at some high tech companies where the rate of return is quite high. Last year, the big 5 high tech companies, Amazon, Microsoft, Apple, Google, all these, they were up like 60-odd%. So you can, look at some of those. But that's what we are paying the management of the mutual fund to do for us. So that will be the next category. The third category would be that if any Muslim brother has a company and is doing well, and you trust that person, you can first ask that person to donate part of his company to the Waqf. So that way, when the company does well, the Waqf will do well. And if that person sells the company, you will get your share of the sale proceeds, and that will be again sadaqah jariyah for that person. The other option will be that you can consider investing small amount in that company. Again, you are going to act like a venture capital, which you may not have the know-how or the resources to monitor businesses. We have done that. We are doing it because you visited our offices, Brother Wajdi. I have the staff to monitor some of these investments, and we did well. We also are in. We have quite a bit investment in stocks, just because they are liquid, and the rate of return is very good. Very little effort. We have real estate portfolio, but we try to use it rather than renting it out to other people and not have that headache. We have a large portfolio in poultry farm in chicken, which is a little bit capital intensive. We have other investments like in Islamic mortgages, the University of Islamic Finance. Last year the mortgage industry has done very, very well. But for that, you need large, investments. You cannot do it with $100,000 or $500,000. But of course, we grew into it. We didn't have that kind of money, but thank God, one investment resulted into good investment, and then we have all this money to go into bigger investments. Start small, and then inshallah, with Allah's blessing, it will grow and grow and grow.
Dr. Mirza, may Allah bless you, and we are very appreciative. One final question from our audience is: are investments in cryptocurrency such as Bitcoin considered halal investment or not?
Yeah, in my mind, I would say no. I must confess, I don't know much about cryptocurrency, but what I understand is it's basically electronic or digital money. You can transfer funds from one person to the other without using a bank or a Western Union. The amount of cryptocurrency available is fixed, but the problem is that it fluctuates, very, very much. It goes up and down, which almost makes it like gambling. So let's say I want to, give $100 cryptocurrency to you, to MBT. By the time I buy it and send it, the price may have doubled, or price may have gone down to 50%. So the risk level is very, 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 very high. The other reason I would be reluctant is that, there is no assets involved. What am I buying? It's basically, something which exists somewhere, which we don't know what it is. So there's no assets involved, and there is a shubha, there is a uncertainty. What is it? So when we buy a share, we are buying certain assets which are backing that share. That's why buying and selling on options, or buying and selling a commodity without taking a delivery is like buying, air, or buying or selling air, buying and selling a promise, but not real commodity. So at this stage, until our scholars look into it, analyze it, and give us their opinion, when I have a shubha about something, I want to take it easy, not jump into it. As I said earlier, we should look for long-term investments and profitable investment, not playing on short-term basis. Yeah, I'm not able to hear you.
Dr. Mirza, we are very thankful to you, and may Allah bless you, and may Allah reward you for such a wonderful, engaging, webinar. And we are very thankful to Dr. Yahya Abdurrahman. Last Saturday, he engaged us also in Islamic investments. And this is where we are today as an American Muslim community, where our gentle giants, contributing to the success and advice. Any final comments, Dr. Mirza, before we close?
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm really honored. Thank you for inviting me and spending this afternoon with me. I'm really honored. More webinars or lectures I give, I feel happy that I've been able to share what we have learned, and hope and pray that that is useful. I was very elated to see Dr. Yahya Abdurrahman being your speaker. Believe it or not, we were buddies in 70s together in Texas. I attended University of Texas at Dallas, lived in Richardson, whereas Dr. Abdurrahman moved to next city to Richardson, was Plano, Texas, and while he was working for the oil company. And then his wife, Majda, joined our university, and she was studying as a graduate student in the same school. We prayed many Jummah prayer together. We bought one house converted into an Islamic center in Grand Prairie, Texas, where now there's a huge mosque. And I just wonder, I know everything is big in Texas, maybe big idea starts from Texas. May Allah be pleased with him, may Allah bless him. And I wish all of you the best. Anyone who's listening, they have a question, please send me an email. My book is available. I just emailed it to Brother Jawad. It is available free, and you can I have the copyrights now. So you can freely distribute to all the people who are attending, and wider circulation there is, hopefully the prayer of any one of them benefiting from it will be a sadqa jariyah and cause for rahmah for me. Thank you again, and may Allah be pleased with you and reward you for all your efforts. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum salam, Dr. Yaqub. May Allah bless you and reward you. And we're very thankful to each of our community members, wherever they are, for their support. We have achieved almost 80%, and we're looking forward, for you to support before the end of Ramadan. Dr. Yaqub, may Allah bless you and reward you and your family. And may Allah bless your wife, for her patience, with many of us that, take your time. And may Allah reward her for her contribution, as a great lady and the support a great husband. May Allah bless you. Jazakallah khair, inshallah. Ameen, inshallah.
Jazakallah khair. Thank you so
Eid
much.
Mubarak, inshallah, for all of us, inshallah.
Eid Mubarak.
Alaikum. Thank you, Jawad, and everybody. Assalamu alaikum.